Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Feet in the Circle podcast. It's been a while. We haven't done one for probably, 18 months, maybe 2 years, maybe lockdown. I can't remember. But they were quite successful at the time and people enjoyed them. So we thought we'd get the band back together and talk again. This may be a one-off. We may do it again in a month's time or a couple of months' time, maybe after a big event, maybe after the Southern Weekender. We can have a chat about that, but we'll play it by ear. So I'm David Plumoff, and with me is come on, talk.
Vince Wills
And
Sean Prendergast.
right, let's get right into it. It's what the viewers want. It's what the listeners want. They want us three to be talking about Pétanque because we are opinionated. So let's firstly, Vince, I'm going to talk to you first. How was your 2022? And how are you doing in general?
So I'm doing well. So obviously my kid's now 2 years old, and I've got a brand new puppy as well. So things are pretty manic at home. But yeah, 22 in terms of ball. Results wise, it went well. It was. I didn't go in. I never really go in with too much expectation. I just want to play ball, and I think me and Josh had played Josh Tombleson, sorry, from the Isle of Wight, played a couple of events together in 21. Did pretty well, got along well, and said, right, let's have a stab at the nationals together. And then we got Callum in as well, who I think was on the fence on who he was going to play with, committed to about 5 teams, and in the end stayed with us. And we comfortably got that top 6 spot, which we'll probably talk about it later. Didn't really mean much, but it was nice to know that 2 years running, without really having to try, qualifying for the England spots was quite nice.
That says a lot, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, mate. And was there anything during the season that you would say that you underachieved that or that you overachieved that? What would you say was your biggest success and your biggest failure, I guess, for want of a better word?
I think the biggest success was consistency. So, we didn't get thrashed by anyone, as far as I recall. And we were always in the latter stages of all the ranking events. And we were just plugging away. We beat a lot of teams that thought they would walk all over us. And we won the games when it mattered. In the knockout rounds, we got to the semi-finals and the finals pretty much every event. That was definitely a positive. I'd say the disappointing side would probably have to be the Euro Cup. I think last year was a team, really the time when I feel like we had a good London team together. There was a nice mix of team players and sort of individual stars, let's say. It felt like we had enough to do it that year, and we did the hard work early on, and then and sort of we sort of let things fall right at the end when it mattered once again against Baldock. So that was disappointing because it's the first year I've experienced it, having not played for the London 1 team for several years, and having played personally well throughout all the throughout the semi-finals, and then also in the first couple of rounds of the final. I was a bit disappointed in my personal performance in the triples, but the team as well. I felt we crumbled for no reason, really. It was odd, but yeah.
Okay, so that's your 2. Right, and Sean, on to you. So how are you doing? And give us your lowdown on 2022.
Yeah, I'm okay. Pétanque wise, lowdown for 2022. Wasn't the best year for me, so I was pleased to be able to actually win something towards the end of the season, the Champions of Champions doubles, keep my win ratio up there year after year, which is good, because I thought I was going to have a barren season, which doesn't actually often happen. But it wasn't generally the best season for me, Pétanque wise.
Why do you think that was anyway? Was it a personal thing? Was it just your performances, or was it a team aspect?
Oh no. The people I play with are absolutely fine. It's very individually. I just didn't have a good season, really. I'm sure there's lots of factors as to why, but still enjoy it always. That's why I keep coming back and playing. But it just wasn't a good season. So hopefully 2023 will be better. One thing I will say though, which I think we'll come on to in a bit, is it's probably one of the most enjoyable interregionals I've had from a Pétanque perspective. We'll talk about other things, but from a Pétanque perspective, it's probably one of the most enjoyable interregionals I've played at for a while. So that was one of the highlights of 2022 for me.
And the low light was obviously, I'm assuming, just your overall performance, or what was there? Was there anything that stood out?
There was quite a few low lights, to be honest. I think I was very disappointed with how I performed in the national singles, getting knocked out in the last 32. I felt like there was an opportunity there. And I think, national titles was poor this year. Rankings, I wasn't too disappointed with, actually. We ended up 7th, 8th and 9th as a triple, which probably was on par, to be honest. But just generally overall, even regionally, I didn't win much, didn't get very far in tournaments, which without sounding too arrogant, is quite unusual for me. So it overall was a good season, but it was nice to end it on a high by winning something.
Okay, brilliant. Obviously this isn't like a interview, so I'm going to talk obviously about my season as well, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, you go for it, mate. Tell us how wonderful your year is.
No, it wasn't actually. Wow, it was. I guess at the start of the year it was very bitter because it's well known that I thought I deserved a place in the doubles, singles and mixed World Championships or whatever it was, or Europeans, I can't remember. And to be honest, it really set me back and it really affected me mentally. But I felt like I did really well to kind of dust myself off, because I was for a minute thinking I don't want to play this anymore. People just pick favorites at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter how well you're playing at times or how good your results are. You kind of, it's if your face fits, you get the opportunity. That's how I felt at the time. So yeah, I didn't play for a couple of months after that, and then I kind of got back into it. I think we played I played with you, Sean, and Tim. Do you remember at Borden? And it was really good fun. It was genuinely really good fun, and it kind of made me want to get back into it, because I think I told like Matt and Jack that I'm not playing, I'm not going to do it, blah 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 blah. And so it kind of made me feel better about myself, about how I don't want to what's the word, bite your nose, spite your face sort of thing, or whatever the word saying is. But obviously in terms of highlights, once again, SSEs, me, Jack and Matt won every single one, which was great. I felt going into 2022 on the back of 2021, because of how well we did, I felt like
the connection problem.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah,
You're
I can
fine.
hear you now. You just go in and out, I think.
Oh, really? Oh,
No,
okay.
you were fine. I think it's Sean's internet.
Yeah, it's probably Sean.
It's not my internet.
But yeah, anyway, so I felt me, Jack and Matt did really well in 2021, and I felt like we continued that form into 2022. I would say my biggest highlight was definitely Euro Cup with River Handball. That was some achievement, especially as we lost the first game in the first round. But I remember talking to the team after that and saying, actually, with the way the fixtures fall, we actually if we can beat Baldock Town, we have a real good opportunity, because I think Baldock will beat London. That's what we literally spoke about. So we kind of like thought, right, we are still in this, and that's only because the fixtures fell the way they did. So that was amazing to win that, and to go to the Euro Cup again with that team, who were brilliant, absolutely brilliant throughout the whole day, and brilliant when we went to the Euro Cup, was brilliant achievement. My low light was probably the national titles. Even though I did quite well, semi-finals and finals of the singles, I felt underachieved a little bit. I thought we should have done better. But yeah, so I lost to you, Vince, didn't I? You and Josh, you beat me in Birdie. I think it was like 13-9 or something. You guys played much better than us. So yeah, that was basically my 2022. Okay, moving on.
Got to be one of your most successful years, isn't it?
I don't know. I guess I think Euro Cup, I think we'll all agree, Euro Cup is so much more valued these days. I think going back 3 or 4 years ago, it was kind of like, it was valued, but I think now it's become a real national event rather than just You know, I think it's so important, and I think you'll both probably agree about that. As I know you haven't been, Vince, but obviously Sean, you've been, and it is such a brilliant tournament, isn't it? In some respects, I enjoyed that more than what I enjoyed the Worlds and the Europeans when I've gone with triples.
But it's also, I mean, the thing that I think changed it from just looking in from when I started playing ball is the English team used to qualify and then not make the finals. They would often lose in the semi-finals or those sort of when you play 4 or 5 other nations or whatever. And the finals was a lot more confined in terms of number of nations. Now they've opened it up. You know, if you win your nation, you're off to go and play in this big, you know, battle of the country club sort of event, which I think has made it even more hungry for everyone to go and have a stab at playing Italy or France or whatever.
Yeah, you're on a club level. Right. Because like Sean, I think with Baldock Town has gone through to that semi-final stage, and they'll be in a group with like Belgium or Holland, and it's like, well, you know, the chances of us getting through to the finals the percentage is a lot less. Where now you go straight into the finals with 32 other nations, and it almost feels like a Champions League. Do you know what I mean? It feels really far more doable, far more prestigious, I think. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, that's true. Although we did manage it once with Baldock Town and probably should have done twice. We won all of our games but lost out on points. We beat Holland and they only won 4 out of 6. We won 5 out of 6 and they went through. But we did manage it once as well.
I remember that. That was madness. I remember that was when Pats were in your group. Yeah.
They have to change the system.
Yeah, Baldock law, mate. Baldock law. Yeah. So yeah, it is. It is. I do think it's better going straight to the finals, actually. And also, I think one of the reasons why Euro Cup is so prestigious, my favourite competition by quite a distance, is because the team aspect, which adds a completely different dynamic to the sport, but also I really genuinely believe that England can medal in the Euro Cup. And I know, obviously, Jack and Matt medalled in the doubles, which is an amazing achievement. And Alex and Hannah in the ladies, but I do think that's our next best opportunity of medaling is in Euro Cup. There's a couple of nations who are amazing, like France. So if you come up against France with the best will in the world, it's going to be a tough ask. But that aside, you can give the rest of the nations a good old game, you know.
Monaco are very good, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's 3 or 4 that you want to avoid, but generally, overall, it's an opportunity, a big opportunity.
Well, Germany have made the semi-finals 2 years in a row, and I'm telling you now, they're not better than our teams. I agree. I agree with that. They got there because the difference is I think they perform probably under pressure a bit better, but they are not better ability-wise than us. And I've played them twice now, and both times never thought they were better than us. So, but yeah. Also, just a quick one on Euro Cup. What do you think? Because I believe it's more of a national event now. Do you guys have any thoughts on how we can? Because I personally think that there needs to be a rule change. Yeah, I think you can play for short argument. I've now joined Meadow, which is Kent. Yeah, I think we should be able to join a club to play Euro Cup because it's a national event, but also have your license for the region you live in. That way, you keep the interregionals more competitive because people won't just leave region, but also the Euro Cup becomes a national event. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts on that is. That's what I think anyway. That way, I can go play for Meadow, but also still play for my region, which is Southern. If you get
so that used, I mean, to some degree, I think it kind of used to happen because a lot of clubs used to get made in the Midlands, and people were not from the Midlands. I think they still had to join the region, but I mean, for me, the problem with if we go down that route, yes, we could make 3 or 4 really strong English teams with that because people will just go, right, I'll join this Euro Cup team this year or whatever. The problem is that it will just purely become like a battle of a couple of clubs every year.
It is anyway, isn't it?
Well, where did River Hamble come from? You know, that they were massive underdogs last year.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the same 4 teams have been in the finals for the last 4 years, I think, or 3 years. So there is obviously a gap there between. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think similar to the interregionals. You know, ideally, I think you should be, living within reasonable distances from the region that you play for. I do understand that aspect. I get if people have links with regions and stuff, but when it comes to the Euro Cup, the teams would just change every year, and you wouldn't be able to get any real chemistry going to when it comes to the critical stage, which is abroad. Whereas I'm sure Sean will agree as well, like the triples element is so key to have that team chemistry, and those players need to know each other inside out. And I think you can't generate that by playing, like a transfer window for the Euro Cup, and everyone will chop and change based on whoever's got the best marketing ploy for their club.
But in all
That's what it feels
seriousness,
like.
Vince, how many players that play for London live in London? Is there any that don't? Sorry, the question should be how many live outside of London?
In the Euro Cup team,
Yeah.
the only one I can think of that isn't sort of within the M25 would be Sofian.
Okay. And Sean, maybe Jamie?
Yeah, to be
And
fair.
Josh Tomlinson, right?
Josh, yeah. So
it's so difficult, because I think Vince makes an important point, is that if you did go down that route, it is the danger that it could turn into like a transfer window situation where people swap all the time, and then you run the risk of not having well-gelled teams, which will be a danger abroad if that team was to qualify particularly. But I'm not even sure it'd be overly successful in this country either. But on the other hand, you have situations, and I suppose, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, but for example, Jamie has close links to the players who play for Baldock Town. So if you were to restrict it, you'd be restricting those kind of friendship groups as well, because a lot of people play for those teams because they have strong friendship groups and friendship links and stuff like that. So it's not just about Pétanque. So I think it's quite a
But that's why he joined the region, right? Jamie's been committed to Chiltern region for that time, and that's why I do think it's quite important that you need to play for the region that you play in. I think it's a commitment. It's not, and you shouldn't, and that you might be against this, Dave, but for me, you shouldn't be able to hop regions every year. For me, it should be like a 2 or 3 year fix where you hold your region, unless you're moving house or something. But I think if you chop and change regions constantly, there's no balance, there's no consistency, with who you play with.
No, all good points, to be honest.
I don't think that's untrue, actually. And I think in an ideal world that would be
best. It's hard to like police that kind of thing, though.
Yeah, it's very difficult to enforce.
At the end of the day, we don't want to become an authoritarian blimmin' organisation where you're dictating what people can and can't do.
But also, you don't know people's personal circumstances well enough.
Yeah.
So I think if we were a professional sport, then maybe it might be different. But where we don't get paid for it and we're essentially playing it for enjoyment, I think to put too many stringent rules in place is probably counterproductive, but it is a tricky one. It's difficult.
Yeah. Okay.
I do think it's good that you commit to the region, though, if you play for that club. I think that's one that shows some commitment, basically, to the cause that you're going for.
Morally,
yeah. I mean, I've joined Kent this year, and I've already played in the first regional qualifier, so I'm not that type of person, to be honest. But anyway, let's move on from Euro Cup. We alluded to it a little bit earlier while Sean did. The interregionals. I wasn't there in 2022. You both were. Were you there, Vince? Yeah. So if I can start with you, Vince. What did you think of the actual venue? What was your experience? Not the Pétanque, but the actual venue, because obviously it changed hands to Pakefield, didn't it? This time up in Norwich way.
Jesus, where do I start? You know what? I think I arrived with a real bias, because I arrived there and it was probably the worst weather I've ever arrived at an interregional for in several years, since probably Brean Sands. And I was only there for the last Brean Sands. And you arrived there on a Friday. It's windy. It's pissing down of rain. You move into your room, which is like, we're used to reasonable accommodation at Hayling Island, it felt like. And going into this place, I mean, it felt like a prison. Some of those rooms, it was a sink and a bed that was lumpy and had stains, and it just wasn't a pleasant arrival. And then you were kind of all escorted in as prisoners into the dinner table area, the canteen. Some people went to have a look at the piece. We can touch base on that afterwards, which was basically sandpits. It was, yeah, it wasn't a great experience. I enjoyed the weekend overall because I love playing ball and I love the fact that I just love the interregionals generally.
Everyone together, yeah.
But yeah, it definitely went a load downhill versus Hayling Island for me.
So what would you rate the venue out of 10? In all seriousness.
Accommodation 1.
Oh wow.
I'd say the sort of potential of the entertainment, I'd say about 7. There's plenty of room, there's bars, need more bar staff, that's a minor thing, but you know, there's room to make something happen there and make it a good vibe.
Is it out of Petanque England's control though, that kind of thing?
I don't know. The food was rubbish, but that comes in line with the type of venue that it is. It's a Pontins at the end of the day.
I do think we need to be a bit more understanding of where we are. Like some of the people that complain about things, it's sometimes you've got to remember that you're where you are. Like it's not like we're staying at the Ritz, so you're not going there. You can't expect to have 5-star or 4-star standard. If you're going there thinking that way, then you're absolutely deluded. And I think some of the comments I saw on Facebook, I totally understand. If it's not up to standard, it's not up to standard. And Sean will probably allude to this. Sean and myself in general we're not privy to blooming exciting fucking 5-star hotels, but even you were a little bit like, what is this?
Yeah, it was bad, and you know, Lowestoft isn't the most ideal place to get to for a lot of people. I mean, you could say that about Hayling Island. You have to cross the country if you're up north, but it felt like you came to a nice place at least. Yeah, Lowestoft's not a nice area. It's impractical in terms of transport. You know, you can get there. There was train problems as well. That's another thing. If people weren't driving, you had to get a diversion train. Yeah, I mean the list goes on. There was some things that just weren't ideal, and I don't know if you want me to touch on the playing surface. I know
no,
I
we'll
did
do
briefly,
that in a minute.
but
Do that in a minute. No.
Yeah.
Right, Sean. So obviously, just tell us about your experience, and also, what do you think Petanque England can control in terms of the accommodation? What can they do?
They need to have, well, I think it's happened already, but they need to have serious discussions with Isle of Wight Tours and Pontins and make sure that they get good value. Yeah, absolutely. And I think those discussions already happened. So it'd be interesting to see what the improvements are next year. I do think a lot of it was out of Petanque England's control, and we'll go on to what was in their control, which I thought they did very well in a minute. But in terms of the actual accommodation, it was poor. And I'm quite relaxed about stuff. So if I'm saying it's poor, you can bet your bottom dollar it was poor. And the biggest issue I have is I genuinely don't think, because you alluded to it earlier, Hoff, is that when you go somewhere like that, you know what you're getting. I agree with that, but I would say that this wasn't good value for money, personally. No. Some would disagree, but I genuinely don't think it was good value for money. The accommodation wasn't just poor; it was substandard.
What's the story you have about spilling something?
Well, yeah, I mean, I spilled something, so that's my own responsibility, I guess. But I reported it quick enough, very quickly, in fact, and said, "Look, can you clear this up?" It took them the whole 2 days to clear it up, so I was just walking on apple sours on the floor for 2 days, with my feet sticking to the floor with bed sheets that didn't fit. You had a plastic sheeting around the mattress, so you're just basically sleeping on plastic. It just wasn't great, and the rooms were about as small as I would say they're probably about the same size as a prison cell. It was it wasn't great. The food, I didn't have a massive issue. Well, it wasn't great, but you know, it's just what it is for that kind of thing. The one thing I did have a big problem with was lunches. You couldn't get a lunch for love nor money. They didn't have enough staff. They didn't have enough staff at lunch times, and they didn't have enough staff in the evenings at the bar. You were queuing up to get a pint with hardly anybody in there. There was hardly anybody in the main arena, and you were still having to queue up for a pint. It was weird. So they didn't have enough staff. which can be easily resolved, and I would be disappointed if that's not resolved this time round. Honestly, you had a queue out the door at their cafe for lunch. They had one person on the till and one person just doing the food behind.
And the barbecue outside, I think it took about an hour to get a burger or something
unbelievable.
crazy.
It was almost like they weren't prepared for the amount of people that's going to be there. And stuff like that really irritates me because, it's not like it's a big surprise to them. They know how many people are going to be there.
So I'll tell you a big thing that we didn't touch on with regards to the accommodation, and I think this goes back to us comparing again. But one thing that was massive with Hayling Island for me is that you had the option of Parkdean or Millrife, and what that bought was a self-catering option. We've got all sorts of diversities and stuff like that, especially in London, for example. Get like like a big Muslim group that play. So they've got dietary requirements. They can't eat this food, a lot of it that's in Pontins. At least at Parkdean, they had an option to cook for themselves if they want to moan about food. Or you could have the easy option, which was go Millrife. You got some basic food there that will fill you up. You're not here at the Ritz, like you said, Hoff. And some people that's fine. I really think that was a massive thing at Hayling that made it a big success as well, is you had that option and you could pay, if you want 5 people in your caravan, you pay 50 quid each. If you want your own place at Millrife, it was 160 or whatever it was. For 3 days is reasonable. If you can deal with it.
I don't disagree with that, and I think in an ideal world that would be you cater for everyone. That's perfect. That's where Hayling Island was really good. But in fairness, I don't think Petonking have that luxury. They almost have to take up an opportunity when they see it within the regionals, and I think that's why Pakefield was in a way ideal for that. So I think they're kind of in a difficult situation. Is that there's not many options, is there, to hold such a big event? So I have less of an issue with that. But the other thing, going on to the staff, I'm going to moan again about this, is not only were there not enough staff, not only was the service incredibly poor, but they were actually quite rude as well. They clearly didn't want us there. We were a hindrance, an absolute hindrance to them in every way. And I was just really disappointed with the overall service. Isle of Wight Tours tried their best. I approached them on quite a few occasions and they were pretty good, to be fair. They were trying to sort things out. I felt quite sorry for them because they were clearly very stressed. I don't think they were expecting it to be as poor as perhaps it was. So to be fair to Isle of Wight Tours, they were trying their best to get things together. But the actual Pontins side of things, they need to do better. And if they're not going to do better, then they need to give it to us for like 50 quid a head for that.
Yeah.
What did we pay?
160, 160, wasn't it?
Yeah.
£160, and I personally don't think that was anywhere near good value.
I think Hayling was about 145, wasn't it, if I remember rightly?
Yeah. And you have to expect they will go up each year, really, with cost and inflation and stuff. And if it was like Millrife, then 160 is fair, but it wasn't anywhere near that.
No.
And I don't think it was good value for money. So hopefully there'll be some big improvements in.
Okay.
Was there no option to renew a Hayling Island? I can't remember what the details were. I know our contract was up, but
I don't know.
I don't know the ins and outs of that. Anyway, let's move on to then the playing side of it. I just let's not run into too much time on this. Obviously, you both had your teams, and you both played for Sean Chilton and Vince, you London. Just a general how you got on, and also what you thought of the actual piece that Petanque England did build, and what you feel that Petanque England could improve on going forward that they can control. I'll start with you, Vince.
So the piece were poor. I mean, again, it might come down to the weather to some degree, but I don't think it was Petanque England that laid the initial gravel down, which is the feedback I was given. I think it was some others, whether it was Pontins or what have you. But they put so much gravel on to the point where you didn't have to control your ball. If you could throw a ball to the distance of the jack, no spin, no control, it would stop pretty much on a lot of the pistes. And it, for someone who points a lot, it was kind of like, oh, this is disappointing. You kind of want it to be either simple, flat and fast, or not flat, but simple and fast. So you have to at least control your ball, or interesting and variance and stuff. And it didn't achieve any of that, basically. So yeah, I was disappointed with the piece. And to be honest, I think that impacted my weekend more than anything. I think if I enjoy the playing side of it enough, then I think I'll bite the bullet a bit more on, shit accommodation, basically.
Yeah. And you, Sean, what did you think of the piece?
Yeah, I partially agree, but only partially, because when I turned up on the Friday night, I was concerned because it was like a salmon pit. It was literally, honestly, you salmon and leap. It was basically the same as that. When I turned up on the Friday, and I was like, "Oh no, what is this?" And then early Saturday morning, the first couple of games on those ones, I was like, "Oh." And then actually, and I think the weather probably did help here, as it got into the late afternoon on the Saturday and certainly on the Sunday, they became quite interesting and a little bit more tricky. I think probably they'd flattened out, people had walked over them, and there was just a bit more undulations and stuff. So they actually, from Saturday afternoon onwards, they were quite good, I thought, decent for interregional piece. But there's no doubt that they can manufacture those pieces so they are like that for the whole tournament.
Yeah, I mean, the undulations were decent. I looked underneath and I was like, this barely needed a touch, to be honest. A little bit of gravel, but
yeah, that's all they. What they need to do is just get a shed load of gravel off the top, really, and they will be actually. I think they'll be pretty good pieces.
Yeah,
and Saturday afternoon and Sunday kind of showed that. Interestingly, the ones that I thought, they'll be a little bit like Breen, they'll be all right, fairly decent. I actually didn't like them at all. The ones up by the tennis courts. I think they were actually worse than the thick ones, but generally overall. I thought Petanque England ran the competition well. Everything went quite smoothly. The presentation went smoothly. I thought Petanque England did an all right job, actually, to be honest.
In terms of like game time, do you think we need to start doing time games at interregionals? I really think it's. I don't see. I've played obviously in loads of interregionals, and the amount of times we're still playing in like almost the dark at like 7:30 at night, and you've got to get food. There's no need for it. There's no need not to have time games. Time games are in every kind of big tournament around, and they're used even more now in cash events. It never used to be used at all, but since COVID they've been used a lot more, especially in like leagues and stuff. I just think they miss a trick with it. I think one of the worst things about interregionals as a whole without time games is if you finish your game quickly and that whistle goes, you have to then leave all your team to go and start, and then half your team are still playing. Another lot of people are waiting for them to finish, and it just becomes a knock-on effect. And I just think, in my opinion, there's no need to have just play to 13. I think it needs to be time games, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think of that, but it's my opinion.
I'd be with it. I'd support it. I think as long as there's a reasonable amount of time allocated to each round. So I would say, whether it's an hour and 15 plus 2 ends or something like that, to give the chance for the game to unfold, especially in the big map rounds and stuff like that. You don't want people to be playing for time and stuff. And the plus 2 ends thing, and this goes to any timed event, is critical if you're doing a time game. And it's something that I've commented to the Southern guys quite a lot, because they've tried to implement time games a lot. They've been doing it time games 1 hour on the dot and then done, no additional ends. And I
think tournament. I think the big. I don't think if a local comp is doing that, I don't think there's an issue with that. I think when it's the interregionals, SSEs, the bigger the event, the more it needs to be run properly, which means, like you say, an hour and 15 plus 2 ends, which is I think international rules for triples. And also one thing I don't get is we play. Was it 12 games last year, guys, or was it 10?
12.
It was 12.
So it's back to 12. Also time games. You could start on the Saturday a little bit earlier. We're all there anyway on the Friday, so I don't know why we start at like 9 or whatever. We could start at literally in France, as we all know, they start at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. We're already there, we're already at the venue, so I don't know why we don't start a bit earlier and play time games. Personally, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against time games. The only thing I'll say about, I'm not either bothered about starting earlier either, but I'm more bothered about starting earlier when it's late September. That's where I'm a little bit more bothered about starting early, but generally I'm not bothered about that.
But you also want the social side. So if you're starting too early, let's be honest, we want people to have fun on the Saturday night. As much as it's competitive, it's also a big get together of everyone in the country. And I think the social element of the interregionals, you know, it wasn't there for when we were in the Midlands. Forgotten the name, but
Melton Mowbray. Yeah,
Melton Mowbray. It wasn't there because of accommodation situation. It had some elements of it at Pontins, but one of the big things for me is cracking open a beer or whatever at the end of the first day and just catching up with everyone.
Yeah, with people you don't see every.
Watching Sean dance, you know, it's a big thing for me.
No, but I totally agree with that. If you did time games, you should have the Saturday done by 6 p.m. You really could. That's even with like a 45-minute lunch break, because you don't need 2 hours. You know, 45-minute, get something to eat, and then on the Saturday you can start at 9 and you'll be done by 5 p.m. The presentation starts at 6. Everyone's happy. No one's wet and cold and staying out till 8:30 at night thinking, "Oh, I'm not going to get any dinner now." So I just think that's something that.
I do think it would be difficult to have it finish at 6 if you're going to do 7 games, but I do think time games is achievable. There's definitely a way around it, and I do think it should be explored, because we didn't finish till, I think, close to 8 on the Saturday, and then it doesn't leave much time in the evening. So I do think it's something that should be explored. Do you know what they should do, Tonkin England, with that? Is they should probably do a straw poll with them, the membership. Because what you don't want to do is something like that, because me and you like it and Vince is open-minded to it, but you don't want to alienate people. So if the majority are not in favour of it, then it's probably not worth it. But they should do a straw poll on it and see what people think.
Yep,
absolutely. Yeah, because I personally was against the idea of going down to 10 games, for example. I like the fact that we have as many games as possible. I like the 12 games. But I know there's some people that feel quite strongly that it should be 10 games, whether it's timed or untimed or whatever. So yeah, maybe it is. Gather the data, and then you've got the evidence. No one can complain. This won the vote. This is what we're doing. And so be it. I know Steve Snudden needs a bit of notice to get all his formulas in gear in Excel, whatever. But yeah, I mean that might be the solution. Just put it to the. Be democratic. Hey, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we move on, then, guys, Vince, who are you playing with in this year's interregionals? Have you got a team sorted?
No, we're not there yet. Yeah, I don't know yet.
Back of a fag packet.
Yeah, London back of a.
No, it's so. I stepped down. Actually, I forgot to mention. So I've stepped down this year finally as sort of captain of the region. I've been doing it for 10 years. We won it obviously in Melton Mowbray. We were close last year, and I already wanted to step down last year, but no one was picking up the pieces. But now it's getting picked up, and we're going with pure sort of qualifiers like we did the year we won it, funnily enough. And yeah, I'm just not. It's just nice not to have to think about it now. I can just get a team together, enter, and enjoy myself.
Wait, and Sean.
Same team as last year, with the addition of Stuart Rainsford. So it's me, Sam Blakey, and Andy Stratford. We won 10 this year. It was such good fun. Me and Sam only had one argument in 12 games, so I'm happy with that.
You had 25 in the other competitions.
yeah, exactly. But it was really good fun. I enjoyed playing my team, so we're going to go again.
Yeah, and I'm playing this year with Roland Jones, Scott Ashby, and Alex Spillett. So yeah, that'll be good fun.
Probably about 10.
Yeah, I saw the Kent lineup from the qualifiers. That's the strongest Kent team I've seen in terms of balance of teams for some time. So pressure's on them. They better win this year.
Well, you know, I join and it all goes up, doesn't it? But yeah, there we.
Well, there you go. There's a quick question for you. Just very quickly, winner and runner-up this year's interregionals. Go, Vince.
Kent winners and Chiltern runners-up.
Sean? No, come on.
I normally don't do this, but I'm going to surprise you for once. I'm going to go Chiltern to win it, and I think Kent will come runner-up. I'm
going Anglia to win it. And Isle of Wight to come runners up. No, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to back the region I'm playing with, so I'm going to back Kent to win it, and runner up is going to be Southern to keep them sweet because I left. Right. Let's move on. Let's move on. Right. So recently, it was International Women's Day. You're probably both we're aware of. So yeah, let's just talk a little bit about that, because I think it's fantastic what Hassie Leverett from Southern has put on over the years. I don't remember when it started, but it's turned into like a real big national event now, where they have almost like a champion of champions now, where they have regional qualifiers and then a finals day. I don't think every region takes part, because, you know, as we all know, you know, the men and the men outnumber the women quite significantly in our sport. But talking to her earlier, there was 9 regions that took part, which is pretty good, out of about 16, I think. So over 50% took part, and majority had over 16 teams, with, I think, Southern having 19 teams, which was the most, I believe. And yeah, so, you know, I think it's a really, really good event. And yeah, I just want to know what you guys, if you guys have been following it, and what you think of it. And do you think there needs to be a men counterpart, or is that not something that we really need? Because as I said earlier, a lot of things are dominated by the men anyway. So, Sean?
Yeah, I think it's great. A really wonderful, inclusive idea. Get more women playing the sport, get more people in general playing the sport, I would imagine, as well. So I think it's brilliant. And you can see that the turnout has been really good as well. So I've got nothing but kudos for... is it Hassie who actually thought of the idea and put it forward? Is she the creator of this?
I don't think she came up with International Women's Day, no.
No, but in terms of, I think it's really, obviously she didn't come up with that, but in terms of having like a champions of champions for it and getting the region, every region entered and all that kind of stuff.
I mean,
it's a new idea, isn't it?
Yeah, I think one day, I think we should get her on to talk about it. I mean, I don't know what the budget is of this production, but
I just think everything like that is really good. And the one thing I think that is fantastic about Petanque is that it doesn't matter what your age is, what your gender is, if you've got disabilities, it matters not one jot. You can still play and enjoy the game. And actually, let's be honest, there's a lot of female players who can give the men a good run for their money. Most of the
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I think it's really, really good, really inclusive. Hey?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think what I love about it is when I see the results or the pictures or whatever, there's people on it that I've never seen before playing in these tournaments that are with really good, like, so you've got your likes of Sarah, you've got your Emma Coddy and Sarah Huntley, you know, you've got your usual suspects, you know, the top players, but also because they inspire other women to play, and you see people playing that you don't really see turn out at these events normally, and I think that's really good, because that can only have a positive impact going forward. So next year you'll probably get more, another region will join and another, and then I think over time it's really good thing that they've started.
And it'll enhance all of the game, because that's a really important point, because what will happen is people that probably wouldn't have played in those type of competitions now will, because it's more on their wavelength, if you like, and then they'll progress and they'll get better, and then they'll look to enter more competitions. It will just raise the profile of Petanque in general. So yeah, it's really good, really positive.
And Vince, you got anything?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the big thing that made it a success is one thing you just mentioned there, Hoff, is that a lot of the sort of star players in the ladies' game were kind of ambassadors to it in the first couple of years that they did it. So they were showing up and pioneering it almost. When you see they're entering, I think it's quite good that you know, I think it's good PR basically for the event. There is one thing I was just thinking about while you guys were talking about it that I would potentially consider, is because this is International Women's Day, and you want it to be as big an event as possible, I would potentially scrap the whole regional qualifier side of it and make it a big competition where all the female players can enter and have a chance at playing the best in another region and stuff like that. Why restrict it? And, you know, where there's some regions like ours that has less ladies, you know, because of that, there's less teams entering. You know, we might not have 2 ladies teams.
An International Women's Day national triples that's taking place on the 23rd of July. So I'm assuming that will be like quite a big event, because it will just be open to everyone on one day event. So I guess where this is doubles, maybe they just felt it was better to do it because it's early in the season. Maybe it's better than and having everyone travel. But there is a triples.
But
on
then but then they're still doing their qualify. If they qualified, they're obviously willing to travel. It's just something to think about to make it a bigger event.
But I
just
think
something
that's
to
the
consider.
great thing about it, is that it's developing over the years.
Yeah.
This year they've made it into a much bigger thing, and I think that it's got a lot of room for manoeuvre and development and evolution. So, yeah, fair play to whoever thought of this idea, because I think it's great.
Yeah, hats off to. I do think it's Hassie that does a lot of work with it. Obviously people can correct us if we're wrong, but I'm assuming Hassie seems to be the forefront of something like that. So yeah, the finals day is at Otshot on the 22nd of July, and they've got 30 teams have qualified for it. So yeah, I mean, we'll definitely look out for that day, and maybe we can have a chat about it when it's been and gone. All right. Anyways, let's move on again. So let's talk about the national side of the game then. So this year the SSEs are around again, the squad selection events. I'm going to put it out there now. I'm not a big advocate of squad selection. I don't like those. I don't mind the squad aspect, but I don't like the selection aspect. It's a little bit silly because actually you basically play in the same team anyway. There's no rules on who you can only play like one with the same person, etc. So I don't know why they don't just make it into some sort of Grand Prix and like the best team goes basically. But hey ho, that's for another conversation. So what do you think of we've had these discussions before, but what's your plans for the SSEs this year, Sean? Be careful here, Vince is here.
I'm going to be playing in them because I love Pétanque. So, and it would be nice if I can represent my country. Then that'll be a great achievement. So yeah, I will be playing in them. And have we seen how it works? Have we been told not the format, but yeah, I suppose the format of what happens with the qualification process? Is it a squad of 6 again, and then they select them? I can't remember if we've been told that or not.
I think it's in the document. I think it is.
It is in the document.
6, yeah.
Okay, so it'll be similar to how it has been previous years. So in the triples, I'm playing with Callum and Josh, and in the doubles, I'm playing with Josh. I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, I'm looking forward to playing with both of them, but in particular, I'm looking forward to doing the doubles with Josh because there's the possibility of developing that into a good double going into Euro Cup. So I'm really looking forward to maybe building that rapport to help with Euro Cup as well. So I'm looking forward to the season ahead. I think there's going to be some good teams, and I also think that this will probably be a year where there'll be a favourite, and I can tell you I think my favourite is, but there'll be no overwhelming favourite, is my view, which I think makes it a bit more interesting. I could be proven wrong on that, but that's just my views.
And Vince, you got anything sorted yet?
To be honest, I haven't. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I qualified for the last 2 years and have seen very little come out of it, which has demotivated me quite a lot, and that takes a lot to do with me. Because obviously I love Pétanque, and I'll probably be playing again because I love the game, similar to Sean. But when you qualify for that top 6, you want to feel like you've achieved something, and bar getting some England tops or whatever, we've had nothing to show for it, in all honesty. I was obviously qualifying with 2, you could say 3 pointers ahead of me in the ranking, so it was always going to be hard for me unless I get a chance to prove myself to be selected for an international event. I think once you qualify, it doesn't really mean anything, and I don't want to demotivate other people from qualifying, but for someone like me, who 99% of people will say he probably wouldn't make the top 6, and I quite like being an underdog, and I've proven that 2 years running and qualified. And with different teams as well, it's worth noting. I haven't, been carried there. I've worked my way to get there. It will prove this year when Sean doesn't qualify for the top 6 with my team,
which is very possible.
No, I mean, look, I'm trying to get motivated again, but P has a big job to really line out a plan for this squad that are going to be selected from, because it's not fair that we spend north of £200 traveling and entering, and not let alone accommodation
per
to
event.
all these events with no cash prizes. And then, you know, that money's kept for funding, which wasn't used. It's extremely frustrating. So yeah, I mean, it kind of, I'm going to go as far to say it kind of broke me a little bit, having that happen to me 2 years in a row, without getting any chance to even be considered for selection other than my qualifiers itself. There is no scouting or coaching, or, you know, we met up and had a pint and a game in the Orange Tree. I think the first year I qualified, and the second year was, yeah, we went to Oxshot.
And
4 of us turned up, and the 2 that got selected were the ones that didn't show up. It was madness. And honestly, I will pipe up about this till the cows come home. I don't do too much public, but it really pissed me off, to be completely honest.
Just to clarify with people listening that maybe think that Vince is moaning about this, I can honestly say, hand on heart, that Vince is absolutely correct here. And if you were, unless you're involved in it, you wouldn't really know, and you'll only know what you're told on Facebook or whatever. But the reality is we put in a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of money into wanting to be top of the game and wanting to play for our country, and we are promised all the riches in the world. And by that I mean squad days, coaching days, you know, your kit being like this and that, and etc., money in the bank, do this, go to a trip abroad, etc. And let's be honest, it really hasn't materialized, and it's really unfair. And as Vince said, it's very demoralizing. And then you look like a whinger when you moan. Like I'm very open. I'm far more open than probably both of you, and I probably don't put it in the right way personally, but that's just me. I will just say it how I feel. I'm an emotional person, and actually it's actually really, you know, it's so degrading. It makes you feel so shit because you've put so much into it, and you're literally left with basically a slap round the face. That's all you get out of it. And then, as I've alluded to earlier, you then don't even get the rewards, even though you probably been the best player, shooter or whatever in the country, and you don't get anything out of it. So, you know, I don't want to dwell too much on that because that's been, you know, it's been churned enough. But yeah, there has to be more accountability, because there's a lot of accountability in the players. There needs to be more accountability in the coaches and the men's lead, in my opinion.
Yeah, but the one thing I'll say about that,
that it's hard because we have families and it's not a professional sport. I get that, but then don't make.
Well, that's exactly it, isn't it? I don't, not for 1 second do I believe that the people involved in this have any ulterior motives or anything like that. I think maybe bad choices are made, and that's another argument. But I think they have the best interest of the players at heart. But the reality is they've tried to put in place a system that they cannot achieve. Yeah. And that sounds really, really like I'm a naysayer, but it's true, because the reality is everyone has lives, everyone has families, other commitments. To try and put in a squad system and create the type of environment that you all want, and as I wanted when I was in the top 6, is very, very, very difficult, if not impossible. So they're making a rod for their own back. You need to, if you're going to have volunteers, and the volunteers who work for Petanque England are great, but they have to be able to do things that are achievable.
Yeah,
and the squad system is not achievable. It can't deliver on that. It isn't. I would say it's almost impossible. I would love to be proven wrong. Maybe this year I'll be proven wrong and they'll develop an amazing squad system. But I'm going to hazard a guess that I won't be. And that's the problem. So you're trying to put in a system that is very difficult to actually deliver. So they need to change it and make life easier for themselves as well as the players. Because actually, I think the people involved in Petanque England generally want to try and do the best for everybody.
Yeah. Also, let's be honest here. You're not going to miraculously become the next Dylan Rocher over a few squad days. Let's be real here. It's not going to happen. And at the end of the day, when you qualify with your team, so for short argument, me, Matt, and Jack. So I expect to, you know, we have that camaraderie, a bit like when Vince was playing with Josh and Callum. You build that camaraderie, you build that chemistry. There's more. It's not about, you know, squad picking players individuals does not make a good team. We all know that. It just doesn't happen in life. It doesn't happen in any sport at the end of the day. And so I think we need to get away from that. And personally, I think the SSEs need to be, you play in a team, you enter, there's 4 rounds, 5 rounds, triples, whatever, and then the top team go. That top team, there's 3 of them. They then have a coach and they speak to their coach and say, this is who we want as our 4th from the next 2 teams, for short argument. And that's how it should be done. Not someone else sticking their nose in who, you know, may not be involved or may not be going to the events and just saying, well, I like him, so I want him in there. Do you know what I mean? That's just how I see it anyway.
Yeah.
Vince, any more on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think until we have any form of way of delivering what they want to achieve with the squad system, we need to send the informed teams. That's how it should be, in my opinion. And again, I brought it up with the board because Nick Baxter, for me, put a very sort of, for me, a good proposal together for a sort of a 5-year plan, essentially. Which was basically what you're saying, that, you know, the long-term goal is a squad system, but until then, and here's what we need to do to get to that squad system, by the way, that it's in there. Until then, we send the informed team. And then I sort of forwarded it on to the board and said, can this be brought up for discussion? And all I got was more questions back saying, right, we need to know this before putting it forward. Why? Put it forward and build on it. Don't be so bureaucratic about that stuff. Pisses me off. I'm getting heated thinking about it.
It could be stubbornness as well, isn't it? I mean, some people probably have their idea, and when they may even know there's a better idea, but they too stubborn to want to change. Unfortunately, that happens as well in a lot of things. But yeah, let's move on from like that kind of negativity. Anyway, what's your goals then for this year in you know, nationally or international, you know, SSEs or whatever? Sean?
What's my goals? I want to be honest, as corny as it sounds, I just want to enjoy it this year. Really. I just want to enjoy the game. And if I enjoy it, then I'll win stuff. If I don't enjoy it, I won't. So for me, it's all about the enjoyment side of it. That's why I'm looking forward to new, fresh teams, new, fresh faces, and try and just get a bit of enjoyment from it, really, and because I've missed that enjoyment over the last few years. So that's my main aim, and hopefully with that will come a few trophies.
You're going to play middle in that national team? Because I know Callum moaned that you wanted to point, although he did a very good job in the middle last year, but.
Well, I think the good thing about the team is that it's
flexible.
It's flexible. So yes, I probably will start off middle, and then we'll see how we go, and we can all move into different positions if needs be. So I do like the flexibility of it. But yeah, I would imagine that's what.
And where do you think you'll come? Do you think you can win it? Or do you think can win it? What's your views?
Can we win it? Yes, of course. Will we win it? I think my view is that it would be a difficult task, but I certainly wouldn't write us off. I think the favourite, based on form, will be you, Matt, and I hope you don't mind me saying, but it's tough if you do because I'm going to say it, is you, Matt and Rowley.
Yeah, because Jack isn't available this year.
Yeah. So I think you guys obviously the favourite, but where I think you're less of a favourite, which is obvious really, it wouldn't matter who, is that you've got a fresh face coming in. So that means you haven't got that stability as much. So I think although you're favourite, it makes you slightly less of a favourite, if that makes sense. So I think that does open up some opportunities for other teams, and I would imagine there'll be some interesting teams that we don't even know of that will come up. So I think it's going to be interesting. Let's put it this way: I'll be surprised if you dominate like you did last year. That doesn't mean you won't win it, but I'd be surprised if you dominate like you did last year. So I think it opens it up a little bit.
And Vince?
In terms of the SSEs, I would say I think the main thing for me is going to be to start enjoying it again. I switched off after the interregionals. I kind of said I need a mental break from ball, and I'm only now starting to get the hunger again and starting to throw ball a bit more. And I need to get match fit quickly, but I think I'm going to take it as it comes. I'm going to, get my team entered for Leicester, see how that goes, and then I'll kind of make my choices based on that. If it starts really poorly, and it just feels like it's not quite there, because what the thing that got me through the last 2 years is I'm in a really good place personally in my life, and it just felt like I was going there, no expectations, no pressure, and it works. You feel so light when you're playing. You don't give a shit if you throw a bad ball, kind of thing. It comes out of your head. Whereas, now it's more going to be about, trying to find that hunger that you need, I think, to compete. And yeah, I'll see how Leicester goes and then take it from there on the SSE side.
I'll tell you what, it is quite interesting this year with the way the calendar's worked out, because there is a lot of importance on the national titles weekend this year, because that is in the middle of, so you've got the SSE double header a few weeks before the titles weekend, and then obviously it's make or break for some teams probably at the titles weekend, but you'll still get a lot of entries because it's a titles weekend. And then the triples is the first event of SSE is that triples, and then you've got the double header a few weeks later. So there, that titles weekend, especially the doubles and triples, is so important this year.
And the doubles and triples are two separate tables.
Yeah,
right?
so you've got the 3 doubles and the singles make one table, and then the 3
the singles as well. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't make the singles. Gutted about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So there we go then. Let's what else we've got on the itinerary here that I've put in. So yeah, we're kind of near the end now. We spoke earlier about this like list thing that we come up with about picking basically using Batonk England members only, who's the best players we've played with. We've done this before in the past where we've done like top 10s and things like that. So this is almost like an end of show thing that we've done before. So what's going to happen is I'm going to pick a category. So it could be like best scooter, throwing the ball along the floor. Sean loves that. Or it could be like the person who's most likely to carry a ball when they shoot, or maybe the best standing lobber in the country that you've played with. So it's not who you think is the best, it's who you've played with. So you can't pick someone that you've never played with before, because that's not how it works. All right. So I'm not going to pick every category on here because there's about 30, but I'm just going to pick a few, and I'm going to start with Vince. Vince, who is the best pointer you've played with? Which may be a bit difficult because you're normally the pointer, but I'm sure you've played middle before.
I would say Jack.
Jackie Blows, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of my experience of playing with him, it's him, but very close between him and Callum recently.
And Sean? Best pointer you've played with? Matt Everton. Why?
Yeah. Easy. I just think he's got a lot of shots in his armory. He can lob, he can roll, and he is mentally the most resilient player as well.
Yeah,
I've never played with Matt. I'll just put that out there now.
So obviously I'm going to answer this as well. I would probably say Matt as well. Matt or Jack. I think with Matt, it's up here that's more impressive to me than his actual ability. I think he's very good at galvanizing the team when things are going against us, and just taking a bit of calm, being a bit calm about things. He's a bit older, a bit more experienced. So like sometimes me and Jack, when we've played with him, can get a bit wound up if we're not playing to our best, and he'll just be that level-headed person. And what he'll do is sometimes he'll absolutely destroy a team on his own, which is absolutely brilliant for me as a shooter. So I would go with Matt and probably Jack as well. I mean, there's so many honourable mentions at the end of the day. Vince, then, who is the best coach that you've had coach you?
That's a really tough one because I've had bits of.
So it could be someone that's done a bit of training with you, someone that's phoned you up and said, look, I think this is what you need to do, or you might have asked someone for some advice, or
I'd probably say that the one that helped me the most, certainly a few years back, was Rashid. Obviously, a lot of people might not know him, or he hasn't been on the scene for a while. But when he's dedicating some time to you, you really take it in. He's got this great aura about him, and I just really respect him. And I learned a lot from him early on.
Okay, Sean?
Johnny for me. His record speaks for himself, but also I think he has quite good man management skills, particularly with Baldock Town. I mean, obviously we've got the players for it, of course we have, but I think to win 6 years in a row, I don't think that's possible without having a decent coach, personally. So
Is that coaching or management, though?
But both.
Yeah, I guess they come into the same. I mean, I'll echo Sean there. I'll say Johnny as well. I know I wasn't happy with his decision when it was the SSE decision last year, but that doesn't mean that I don't value him as a coach or a manager. And I agree with Sean. I've seen it firsthand where he's had to make tough decisions in a very competitive squad, and he doesn't shirk from it. And actually, he's quite open with why. So he doesn't just go, "You're not playing." He'll say, "You're not playing, and this is why you're not playing," and you feel more at ease about that. So yeah, I would go with Johnny. Vince, who is like the best doubles partner you've had? So best in doubles.
I guess it's hard for me to say anyone other than Josh Tompleson. We were the national doubles runners-up last year. So clearly what we have works. I've played with a lot of people in doubles, and I've played with a lot of different people. Not really consistently played with anyone, but we always did well as a double. So I'd definitely say he has to be up there.
Yeah, and Sean?
Oh, man.
Okay, let's give you. Okay, best in. What about triples? Let's do triples with you.
Oh, that's even worse.
So you don't have to play in a triples team. So you could have played triples with X and played another triples with Y, sort of thing. Who would be?
No, so doubles, I'll go 3 because I can't split them. So I would say, because good in both ways. So Jack, you, and Saf for me. Me and Saf have a very good record in doubles. And me and Jack went unbeaten in doubles for quite a long time until we lost in the national titles at Gravesend. And then me and you have a very, very good record as well. So I can't split those 3 for doubles. So those are the 3 I'd go.
Okay, for me, it'll be Jack. I think me and Jack, obviously yourself as well, Sean, we've played very well together. I think we have great chemistry. We're very good together. But I think you won't mind me saying that me and Jack get on so well in terms of what we want to achieve, in terms of how we play the game as well. We're quite on the same wavelength. And yeah, I really enjoy playing doubles with.
I can imagine why Jack and you would kind of fit, because I think you're quite outgoing and dramatic on the terrain in terms of your gestures and everything. The thing I like about Jack on the piste is that he's an angry guy.
Yep.
I was going to say something else. And he's got this real, not nasty, a real competitive streak. And I like that. I like that on the terrain.
When we played SSEs last year, we were playing against Sean, Reese, and Sam, and they were literally at the bottom of the barrel. They were so down and defeated, and it didn't matter if we lost to them; we were still through. And Jack literally played. Honestly, Sean, he was literally wouldn't talk to you, and he said, "I am going to annihilate them." And I think we won to 0 or to 1, and he was just like, "Right, shake your hands and walked off." And I think,
I like that. I love that. Like,
ruthless. He is ruthless.
So I like that. I think that's important in a team, and I think that's the interesting part of your triple for the SSE this year. Is it how that leaves any gap in your chemistry as a triple? Because I think you need someone like that in the team. I like having an angry guy next to me, because I'm pretty serious when I'm on the piste. I'll have fun outside and stuff. When I'm on the piste, whoever's against me is the enemy, and that's it. And I like that mentality, and Jack's got that. And yeah, I can imagine why it would work well with you two.
Okay, right, Sean, the best mentality that you've played with?
Matt again.
Matt, yeah. Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah.
Or is that... Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. I've never played with a player or watched a player or against a player who, when you're 9-1 down, you're more confident you're going to win. Think about that. I've never. It's unbelievable. If there's a comeback to be had or your back's against the wall, there isn't, in my view, a better player. And you've seen that at a low level at the interregionals. Half the amount of times when you were playing, we were watching their games. You're like, oh, they're 10-1 down. They're going to win. It's literally unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it, to be quite frank.
And Vince?
Mentality-wise, I would probably say Steve Dakin. I love the way he is on the piste as well, and I think he's got a very calm mind. He's not phased by who he's playing, how
You
well
have
they're
played with
playing,
him,
how
yeah?
badly he's playing. Sorry?
You have played with him, yeah?
Yeah, I've played with him twice. Once in a national, and then the other was the southeastern weekend. The southern weekend triples where we split
Yeah.
the money in the final, and we were playing with Mark Robertshaw. But yeah, I just really like the way he is on the piece, how he manages people. I think he's calm, and I like that.
I've got two that I would put in there, and for different reasons, but they're both on the same level for me. So the first one is Roland Jones, because I think he's so good at just managing the situation that you're in, whether that's pressurized or not, and he's so good at making you feel better than what you are, and that can be a joke or even a bit of anger. And I think he's got a brilliant mentality. Nothing phases him. Honestly, nothing phases him. And I think that is brilliant. And the other one would be you, Sean. And that's because of I think you've got an amazing winning mentality, because I don't think you mind me saying that. I don't think you're the most skillful player in the world, but you win things. And I think that's because you have a real desire in your head to play what you see rather than play how you want people to perceive you. And I think that is amazing. I think too many people get caught up in what looks good and not what wins, and you do what wins. And I love playing, and I love that about you. Right then, next one is the best middle. So Vince, that you've played with. So the best all-rounder, I guess.
I don't want to name him twice, so I'm going to change names. I'm going to say Scott Ashby on this one.
Yeah, who was your other mention? You just mentioned him.
The other person I was going to mention would be Jack, again because he's played middle a lot, but I see him as a really strong pointer with a good shot. I think because his shot's quite soft. On certain terrains, it can come against him. That's probably his only real weakness that I've noticed. But for me, I would say Scott. I've played, I think, once or maybe twice with him now. We got to the final on one. I can't remember the other, but he's just got an all-round game that I really like, and he's calm and chill, and you need that in the middle. He's not afraid to take on a pressure shot, and he's a cool guy. So yeah, I'll put Scott there.
Shawnee Pete?
Jack.
Yeah, basically for the same reasons that we're all going to say, because I'm going to say Jack as well. So
my own view is, and I've said this to him before, and I do mean it. It sounds like I'm blowing smoke, but I personally think he's the most all-round talented player in the country. Actually, probably by quite a distance, which then raises the question: why hasn't he won more? But anyway, that's a question for another day. Because I genuinely think his all-round game is at times unplayable, and he's kind of shown that, I guess, by meddling. But yeah, so there we are.
Yeah, I would echo Jack as well for the same reasons. I'd also put in there Scott and also Callum. I think Callum's all-round game is just unbelievable at times. He's one of those players, a bit like Scott as well, that you can put him in any position and he probably won't look out of place. I think Callum's still got a lot to go mentally, especially outshot if he's playing shooter. Because I do think people don't realise just how much pressure shooters put on themselves at the end of the day. But yeah, anyway, with expectation as well. But yeah, I'd echo Jack and then probably Scott, Rowley.
One thing I will very quickly say is Jack's never beaten me in a competitive game of singles. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
just to comment on Callum, because he's obviously another one who's come up to the top of the English game over the last couple of years. I played with him obviously the majority last season. We did well. I did see one weakness, and it goes to the mentality side, that I think is the only thing missing from him being almost first on that list, and that is at 12-12 or at the final stages of games where there's that chance to crunch and win a game. That's the only bit I've seen him lack. So you would have seen it at Leicester when we played you in the final, had a ball for game. We had other scenarios where he's got that chance to take the killer shot, and you need that in the middle. You need that hungry instinct that's going to win you that game on the last ball, and that's the only thing I've seen missing from his game in the last season.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. When we went to the Euro Cup, the Danes, we played against the Danish, and we lost, and we didn't. Even though the scoreline would say that we lost quite heavily, it actually wasn't a heavy scoreline. We actually won one of the triples before the other one lost, and that made it just did not finish, sort of thing. And the one thing the Danes questioned Callum on was his intensity and just being part in the game, and they felt like he's too much like. And we don't know, and I've never really noticed this before, but it was like he wasn't he was in the game, but he wasn't in the game. He was kind of looking at everyone else. He wasn't intense enough to be available. Well, like you say, when those big moments come, to make those big moments matter. But anyway, I don't want to. That's a very small thing. So if Callum listens to this, he needs to know that I think so much about Callum and his game. But yeah, that's just a little bit that probably just needs to improve on. Right, moving on. Let's go. Most likely to Caro. I'm going to start, and I'm going to say Jason White. I think he's probably arguably the best shooter in the country, and he has such great technique. Where with his loop as well, he gets a lot of stayers, and so I would say he is the most likely to Caro. Sean,
did you say Jason?
Yeah.
So. You or Jason, you two are the best shooters at the moment in the country, probably by quite a distance, to be honest. Who carries more? It's a toss of a coin, isn't it? Much of a muchness. So you're Jason.
Vince?
Yeah, I mean, certainly you two would be the names in terms of the most informed sort of English players, certainly over the last sort of year or two. Another name I'd throw in there, just from my personal experience of playing with him in England in a national before, is Dinesh. He hasn't played much, but his carry rate is insane when he's playing, basically. And he's one I'd love to see more on the national scene, because he's got the ability to be a really top player.
The best thing is I've never played with Jason, so I'm going to change that. I've never played with
neither have I, actually.
So you can say me now, Sean. I'm definitely not saying you. I'm going to say it's probably Sofian then. Yeah, so I've played with Sofian a few times. So yeah, he's probably the next best, isn't he? I've seen him over the years just be unbelievable. So yeah, probably Sofian. Let's do a couple more then, and let's be a bit more brief on our explanations here. Who's got the best super lob that you've played with? So a really high lob. Vince.
At the moment, I'd say Jack.
Yeah. So you don't need to explain that. It's just a high lob. So Sean.
Yeah, Jack, and when he's on form, and he hasn't been on form for a little while, but yeah, Jack or Sam.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with two people that you probably haven't even thought about, even though. So there's two that I think I've played with both of them, and it's unreal how good they are at it. I think Dean Seville is unbelievable at high lob, honestly unreal, and so is Dan Hill. I don't know if you remember Dan Hill.
Yeah, I do.
Such a talented player, and I don't know if you ever heard of him, Vince.
I played him one national when he played with Rashid, and
yeah, he played a lot with Rashid and like Jerome and Hervé and things like that. Honestly, that guy had so much technical ability; it was unreal. So yeah, I mean, Jack's obviously got that super lob from Crouch, but yeah, from a super lob standing point, I think Dean Seville and Daniel Hill. Let's go with then best shooter. Vince, you played with.
Do they have to be from England?
Yeah, it's Petanque England members, mate.
I guess if I look at it now, you're probably the strongest shooter I've played with that's in England. You've had the best form in the lot. We played one event, I think two events actually. One with Angie Jameson years ago.
Oh my God, Tony Richards event. I think we lost in the semis, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, and I'd only really just started playing back then. Then the other was a doubles in Cobbitts as well. But I think you were still not at the level you are now. But obviously I've played with you, so it qualifies.
Well, me, you, and Sofian played together last year, didn't we?
Oh, we did, yeah. Well, we didn't do very well. We got lost in the semis, but we didn't play particularly well.
No, we lost in the semi-finals to Reese, Phil, and Sam, I think. But yeah, okay. And Sean?
So in recent years, definitely you, and then beforehand it was Saf. And I'll tell you who else is underrated as we talk about it, and who I've played with is Phil Winston. I have played with Phil when he has literally been unbelievable. Whether he does it enough is another question, but when he's on it, so yeah.
Just going off on that subject a little bit. Remember when we wheeled him in for the Euro Cup in 2019? Honestly, I've never seen anything like it. In the double, was it the doubles or was it the triples?
No, it's the triples. Yeah.
And then in the next game, like you say, he didn't perform.
But in that game, honestly, it wouldn't be exaggerated to say it was like watching Dylan Rocher.
It was unreal, wasn't it? We literally just wheeled him in. It was literally like, right, go on, get in the circle. Unbelievable. Yeah, I would probably say the best shooter I've played with is it's probably two. It's probably Sofiane and probably Oscar Panadero, who was obviously here for a few years. I love playing with him. Just his all-round ability was fantastic.
He never won anything though of any significance.
No, that's very true, and that's another thing that it's easy to say who's best but winning is the most important thing at the end of the day, isn't it? And so many players with so much ability that don't win, and you have to think why don't they win? But that's for another subject. Right, couple more then. Let's go with the best triples team that you've played in, the best in triples. So it could be someone that you've played with before and someone else in a different team. Sean, so shooter and middle basically, or pointer, whatever you want to do.
One person.
Two, obviously, there's two in triples.
The most successful triples team I've played in has been Saf and Matt. We're unbeaten for about 18 months, I think.
Yeah. But if you had to pick anyone who you've played with before,
your ideal triple, basically, with who you played with.
Ideal triple.
But that's still a good answer. Vince can answer that bit as well. I mean, it could just be the same.
Not based on form, it wouldn't be. But ideal triple right at this moment, if I could pick a triple, of course it would be Callum and Josh.
Very diplomatic. Brilliant. I love it. Vince? Who's the
Honestly,
best?
that's a tough question. I'd say maybe I'd go Antoine as my middle, and then I don't know. I really don't know. That's a really tough one.
What's the best triples you've played in then?
Well, results-wise, I'd say Callum and Josh. I mean, it worked. We didn't have much peacetime together, and we got results. So
yeah, that's good. Obviously, me, Jack, and Matt, fantastic together. It's one of the best teams I've played in. I think we've played in 10 triples events and won 9, I think it is, runner-up. Or no, won 8, runner-up in the other. And one of them, we had an absolute mare at the national titles. But that happens. It's not a bad strike rate. And also when I played with David and Oscar I'm surprised you didn't say David and Danny, Sean.
David and Danny, yeah.
But yeah, David and Oscar, I really enjoyed that, especially regionally. It was such good fun, and David is just incredible pointer, to be fair. So yeah, I think we'll wrap that up there, guys. It was a really good chat. We've gone on for quite a long time, but yeah, it was nice to just have that connection again, and hopefully everyone will enjoy listening to it. So yeah, let's sign off with our goodbyes. So it's goodbye from me, Sean.
And it's a goodbye from him.
And Vince.
See ya.
Goodbye from them. Right. See you later, guys. Stop the record, Vince.